Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Knowledge Group webcast, Office 365 with ZyLAB's eDiscovery. I'm your moderator, Ron Fleury. Before we begin, let's go over a few housekeeping notes. Please note the FAQ.help tab located to the right of the main presentation. On this page, you'll find answers to the top questions asked by attendees during a webcast, such as how to fix audio issues, where to download the slides, and what to do if you miss a secret word. To access the tab, click to the right of the main presentation, and when you're done, click the tab of the main presentation to get back. For those viewing the webcast on a mobile device, please note these instructions are for Apple and Android devices only. If you're using a Windows tablet, please follow the instructions for viewing the webcast on a PC. The FAQ.help tab will not be visible on mobile devices. You'll receive the FAQs and other pertinent info through the app's chat window function on your device. On Apple devices, you must tap the screen anywhere to see the taskbar, which will show up as a blue bar across the top of the screen. Click the chat icon, then click Chat with All to access the FAQs. Feel free to submit questions by using the questions function built into the app on your device. You may use your device's pinch to zoom function to enlarge the slide images on your screen. Headphones are highly recommended. In the event of audio difficulties, a dial-in number is available and will be provided via the app's chat function on your device. Follow us on Twitter, that's @know_group, to receive updates for this event as well as other news and pertinent info. Speakers, I'll be giving out the secret words at randomly selected times, and I'll try to do so discreetly. Please pardon the interruption. To all attendees, we need your insights. We're conducting some special research to improve the Knowledge Group for you. Give us 10 minutes on the phone and we'll give you 6 months of free continuing education webcasts. Please click the link found in the upper right chat box to sign up and participate. We look forward to hearing from you. Let me now thank our participating partner firms for this event, ZyLAB and Microsoft. Feel free to visit their respective websites for more information. And now to introduce our panel of speakers. Johannes Scholtes, PhD, is Chairman and Chief Strategy Officer of ZyLAB. Before joining ZyLAB, he was a lieutenant in the Intelligence Department of the Royal Dutch Navy. Johannes holds a Master of Science degree in Computer Science from Delft University of Technology and a PhD in Computational Linguistics from the University of Amsterdam. Since 2008, he has held the Extraordinary Chair in Text Mining at the Artificial Intelligence Group with the Department of Data Science and Knowledge Engineering at the University of Maastricht. Rachi Messing is a Senior Program Manager at Microsoft. He currently works in the Office 365 Information Protection Product Group with a concentration on how to manage corporate data repositories using analytics for compliance needs. Rachi was part of the Equivio management team and joined Microsoft through its acquisition in January 2015. His career is focused on compliance and eDiscovery for the past 15 years, and he's a frequent speaker on these topics. Well, thank you to both of our speakers who have been more than generous with their help and support to prepare for this event. I'll turn the program over to Johannes Scholtes.
Okay, thank you very much, Ron, and welcome everybody. I'm very happy to be here together with Rachi. Yeah, we would like to explain to you today how ZyLAB and Microsoft work together to give you a complete eDiscovery solution in the market. We'll start by giving you a little bit of overview very shortly about where we see added value in the use cases and in the market, and then I'll hand it over to Rachi, who will then explain what the Microsoft product can do for you from an eDiscovery point of view in governments. And then I'll take it over and explain to you how ZyLAB can add functionality to that solution. So what we've been seeing recently is that Microsoft Office 365 is really gaining huge market share over many other cloud applications. In particular, looking at AWS and Google Apps in the enterprise adaptation. We see almost everywhere that Microsoft 365 is gaining traction, is the preferred solution. So more and more data is stored in Microsoft 365, which also means that in the case of eDiscovery for a variety of use cases, to which I'll get back later, data has to be collected from 365. Next slide, please. Now, what we see is that we're still living in a kind of a hybrid world. Large part of data, and this was 2016, I'm sure, Rachi, that the numbers are already different. But in 2016, 27% of all the Exchange data was hosted in Office 365. 73% was still on-premises Microsoft Exchange mailboxes. But the share of Microsoft 365 is growing very, very rapidly. Next slide, please. Now, where we see the different eDiscovery use cases are, of course, in the traditional federal rules of civil procedure related eDiscovery. But there's a lot more use cases where people also are on a truth-finding mission, and where they have to collect, process, analyze, review, and produce large amounts of electronic data. Of course, litigation and arbitration, very similar to the strict eDiscovery use case. But one of the larger cases that we see actually is the answering of regulatory requests. There are many regulators varying from financial regulators to antitrust investigations to environmental regulators to data protection regulators, healthcare regulators, you name it. And whenever a regulator has a certain authority, they will most probably use it, and almost all of these regulators are allowed to request for information or to seize information. And we see that especially in Europe, regulatory requests are the main use case for eDiscovery. Recently, we've seen also huge interest in public records requests or public record acts, also known as FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, or Sunshine Acts, where governments are supposed to deliver and provide information based on requests from citizens. For many local, state, and federal government agencies, this is a huge task, and the departments handling these requests are often departments that are larger than the legal or eDiscovery department. The big problem with FOIA and public records requests is not really finding the data, because most government agencies do have proper records management systems and they can identify where the relevant data is pretty quickly. But the problem is really in the disclosing of the information, because one has to be very, very careful not to disclose information which could harm the government organization. So finding documents that have to be withheld or applying redactions is a huge task here, which is even more time intensive than the review task. Internal investigations, often related to regulatory requests, but also more and more to compliance acts. And then the most recent use case we see in eDiscovery is in the field of M&A, due diligence, trying to find approval for merging under the Hart-Scott-Rodino Antitrust Act, so-called second requests by the FTC. Similar acts also exist in Canada and in Europe. And what we see is that these days is that data rooms are getting larger and larger and larger, and especially if you are looking at real estate deals or securitization of loans, then the data rooms contain many documents, including a lot of documentations on the underlying collateral, which all has to be checked. And we recently did a case where there was more than 2 million documents just in one data room. So all of these are eDiscovery use cases, and all of these you have to deal with lots of amounts of data, and you have to go through the EDRM process where you identify, preserve, and then deduplicate, process, try to call data which is not relevant as soon as possible, try to prioritize the relevant data, try to find out what happened, try to do some truth-finding process and align and organize the data so that reviewers can do their work very efficiently. Okay, now from here on, I would, if you can go to the next slide, please, I would like to turn over to Rachi, who can tell us how this all is done right now for the first part of the process in the Office 365 E5 product.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. So I wanted to just quickly walk through what the data lifecycle looks like when dealing with data in Office 365 for compliance and eDiscovery. So we start off with the ability to bring data into Office 365, because a lot of the people I'm sure on this call, I'm sure there's plenty of people who are already using Office 365. We recently announced that we surpassed 100 million commercial users of Office 365. So as pointed out earlier, it's growing, but there's still plenty of data that is either still on premises or is in the process of being moved. So at Microsoft, we enable multiple different ways to take that data, whether it's within the on-premises servers or third-party archives that have been in use for years, and move that data via either drive shipping, putting it onto hard drives and physically shipping it to one of our data centers in the 34 different regions where we have data centers around the world, or by uploading that data via network upload in order to then get it into Office 365. And if we advance the slide, we'll see that within Office 365, we have a number of different utilities, applications, including the email applications, OneDrive and SharePoint for sharing content, Skype for business for instant messages and voice communications, as well as the archives. So a lot of corporations are moving their archives or moving data that's been traditionally in their on-premises Exchange servers and held there in place. They're moving that data into the online Office 365 archives. And the main reason for that is in order to have their data all in one single place where they're going to be able to perform all of their compliance needs within that one location. And if we go to the next slide, please, we'll see that not only are they bringing things that were traditionally within Microsoft's arena, their email and file share data, but they're also bringing in all kinds of other third-party data as well. Things like social network information. If you have your corporate Facebook account where you want to have that data archived in Office 365 to make it available to search and perform compliance needs on it. If you have Salesforce chatter data, all of that data can be brought into Office 365, again, so it's all within one location. And once that data is in one location, then if we can advance to the next slide, we'll see that we then enable in-place eDiscovery tools on it, which means that we're able to do everything without having to make copies of the data. So for example, we're able to apply retention rules. We're able to define when data needs to be preserved or when data needs to be deleted after certain amounts of time. And those policies can apply to all of the different types of data that are stored within the cloud. We're able to then use the tools within Office 365 to help us find that data, run advanced analytics on that data, and then finally, on the next slide, actually take that data and place it into review tools in order that the attorneys can then go in and review all of the data that's coming out. And we know that the volumes are growing every day, every year. The data volumes are growing, and the more data that comes in, the more important it is to have these tools to be able to reduce that volume before it ever has to reach the attorney's eyes. Because data that has to be looked at by attorneys or investigators, that is where the costs come. The costs do not come from there is costs related to processing, but the costs truly come from the volume of data that has to have attorneys' eyes on it. So the more that we're able to do to allow the corporations to reduce that volume in place, the better off we are. And of course, if we go to the next slide, the last piece to all of this is the auditing, where every action, every activity that takes place on whether it's user-based actions, admin-based actions, the eDiscovery actions, all of it is audited throughout the whole process. So as we look at all the different use scenarios that were previously mentioned, a lot of it comes down to not just the data that is the content, but also the activities that took place, and being able to bring all that information together, the auditing together with the actual content, makes it a seamless, compelling story that allows you to truly understand what happened in any event. So if we can move to the next slide, we'll dig in a little bit deeper into some of these tools. The first thing is that as the data is sitting in place, as soon as it's created, so an email is sent or received, data is created in SharePoint or OneDrive, data is uploaded into the archive, the data is instantly indexed. So there's a real-time index that allows you to do searching across all of the data and allows you to dig into that data to understand exactly what is going on at any given point in time. You have all of your rich searching capabilities, such as proximity searching, wildcard searching, the ability to search for very specific metadata, to be able to search things like, show me all data that was shared externally from a OneDrive site. So I can actually pinpoint maybe where a leak is. All of those tools allow you to quickly get in, identify data, see statistics around the data, understand where your locations are. So for example, if I am trying to litigate a patent and I'm not sure within the corporation who actually knew about this patent, or a specific project name that I'm not sure who worked on the project, I have the ability to go ahead and search across my entire Office 365 environment at one time and quickly identify what are the locations, who are the people that were involved, what mailboxes have data, who was chatting about this patent number, who was chatting about this project name, and identify those locations in order to be able to do my custodian identification. Next slide, please. Once I've gone ahead and performed all of the searches, I'm able to pull the data out in various different formats. I'm able to export the data in native format. If I'm just going to look at it in Outlook or provide it to someone who's going to be doing additional processing, I'm able to do some quick analysis via Excel. I get exports that allow me in very small cases to not have to even put the data into a review tool, but be able to actually look at the data, look at my analytics information, which we'll talk about in a second, and really understand very quickly what that data is talking about, as well as the ability to move it directly into the various different review tools and get that full rich review experience that you expect from a full-blown eDiscovery review application. The next slide talks through some of the additional advanced eDiscovery components that we've introduced on top of the standard eDiscovery offerings. And those include the ability to identify relevant documents using machine learning, to identify the topics and the themes that the documents are talking about. So getting you, first of all, reducing that volume, but getting a much richer set, understanding that volume, by understanding what the different topics were and what the people were talking about and discussing in their emails and in their chats and in their documents. And then for whatever the data set is that has to actually get in front of the attorneys, allowing you to organize them as efficiently as possible to then be able to have the attorneys review that data as quickly as possible. There's always going to be some set of data that needs to be looked at. But the goal is to reduce the costs associated with that review by providing the analytics to help you to organize that data as efficiently as you can. So as you're going through all of these different pieces, if we can go to the next slide, we can see that the auditing behind all of this is really essential. It's what makes the entire process defensible. It's what allows you to truly rely that what you think is happening is really happening here, and to dig in. And you can see the scale of what we're collecting and what we're searching against, and the things that we're actually having to identify and find within the Office 365 auditing in order to be able to truly say that we understand, and we're going to give you the tools to understand what is going on within your organization, with your enterprise, with your data. So how does this auditing work? If we go to the next slide, we'll see that the architecture behind this, it allows us to bring together the audit logs from all of the different tools. So whether it be sharing data in OneDrive or SharePoint, creating a new Excel document there, creating a new Word document, editing a Word document together with someone else at the same time, or taking our Azure Active Directory logs, identifying who logged in when, who was accessing data from different locations, was someone accessing this data when they shouldn't have been, together with their email access and what was going on and who was sharing mailboxes. Did someone log into the CEO's mailbox and send email on his behalf where he didn't actually realize it? Was the CFO, even though she was visiting London, her email somehow or another was being logged into from China? So let's understand what those patterns of communications were. Bringing all of that together, having alerts around that data, being able to understand exactly what is happening. All of this is part of the defensibility and making sure that our clients are comfortable with the security and knowing what exactly is going on within their environments. So what data is audited? On the next slide, we see that it really does cover everything. It covers everything from admin activities around eDiscovery, so we can see who created searches, who was accessing different mailboxes, who downloaded data, who looked at data, to all of the different activities of who was looking at reports, who was looking at in Power BI, who was looking at the different dashboards and what information was being shared via those dashboards. So all of this information comes together with the powerful searching, the powerful analytics, and the powerful in-place data storage in order to allow us to do in-place retention, in-place preservation, in-place searching, and in-place analytics to give a full eDiscovery lifecycle approach within Office 365. However, we know that there are advanced tools and tasks that people at times want to do, and that is why within the Office 365 eDiscovery program, we have partners. We have partners both on the service provider side who help the clients to understand and to work through their complex eDiscovery and compliance-related tasks, and more importantly, we have technology partners such as ZyLABs, who help us complete that story. So now I'm going to turn it back over so that we can walk through the ZyLAB approach on top of the Microsoft eDiscovery.
Okay, thank you very much, Rachi. Can we have the next slide, please? Yeah, thank you. So where do ZyLAB come in? Now, as you can see here, we have a couple of solutions. First of all, and is that our software can run in the Microsoft Azure environment, which provides a very flexible, very cost-effective environment where we can connect directly to the Office 365 environment to pick up the PSTs that are exported, or we can even, as you can see in the middle, collect directly from Microsoft Office 365, different mailboxes, SharePoint projects, or OneDrive data locations. And by doing it with in Microsoft Azure, you actually will probably be in the same data center, in the same geographic region, and thereby you have very fast bandwidth when you have to collect data from these environments. Now, what we also add is the possibility to use on-premises licenses. We've had on-premises eDiscovery solutions for a long time, and what we can do is that we can also collect directly from Microsoft Exchange file shares, but also from other repositories like Lotus Notes or content management systems, CIMS systems like Alfresco, and other data locations where your data may reside. So what we can do is we can provide a hybrid on-premises and Azure solution, which you can use to review the data, but also to directly collect data from other locations, complex locations or data locations with more structured data. And then we process them. We can also do deduplication, and I'll show you a couple of the other things. We provide this with perpetual licensing, if you wish, for on-premises licenses, and we have different licensing schemes for some of the other tools that we have. Next slide, please. Now, once
Johannes,
that's all done, and, yep.
Johannes, I'm sorry if I can interrupt you before you get to the next slide. I'll drop two secret words here, okay? The first secret word is eDiscovery, E-D-I-S-C-O-V-E-R-Y, eDiscovery. That's the first secret word. The second secret word is solutions, S-O-L-U-T-I-O-N-S, solutions. So there's two secret words, and I give it back to you, Johannes.
Good. And we continue with the ZyLAB eDiscovery solutions here. So what else do we add? Like Rachi already said, after the data is processed and called and data is reduced, and you've determined where the data comes from, then what we can offer is not only a legal hold solution, which is more like in the front of this whole process, but also a legal review solution, where you can then very effectively review the data. Like Rachi said, it's the most expensive part of the whole process. So what we do is we provide early case assessment tools, which give you like this 30,000 feet view on what's in the data set. We organize the data, and we give you all kind of advanced analytics, of which I will show you a couple of slides. Then we do the review. Now, in the review, we have a lot of review accelerators, which allow reviewers to really be productive. We use a variety of data science and artificial intelligence techniques. And then very important, but often forgotten, is we can do production in many different file formats, but also manage all the different productions. So you can actually keep track of what you produced, when, where, and also use that for future reference. Now, if you go to the next slide, first I want to tell you a little bit about Azure. Why are we using Azure for eDiscovery? Now, one of the big problems in eDiscovery is that you never really know in advance what you're going to get. You never know how much data you will have. You never know what type of data it is, what type of processing is required. Do you need OCR? Do you need audio search? Do you need machine translation? And what kind of workflow and iterations you will have. So what is one of the big problems in eDiscovery is this really load balancing and resource allocation. And what you want to have some kind of intelligent system that actually prevents such bottlenecks and deals effectively with what we call the data wave in eDiscovery. Now, the next slide, please. Now, what we can do in Azure is that we have scripts, and with these scripts, we can create a ZyLAB deployment in the Azure environment. You can say, well, I want 12 servers. for processing, or 20 or 100 or just 5, whatever you want. You can define the review server, you can define the CPU power and everything you can do in Microsoft Azure. Select the database, and then you can spin on and spin off machines as you require them. So if you have a very, very strict deadline and you have a lot of data, you can easily spin on like 20 or 30 machines. The processing will go much faster. Once you're done, you can spin them off, you don't pay for them, or if you have an investigation and you no longer need this data for this investigation for a while. You see this a lot with court cases where there's a lot of activity for a certain moment of time and then everything slows down for maybe half a year or a year. What you can do then in Azure, you can spin off the machines. The data will be safeguarded, it will be stored, and as soon as you need the machines again in the future, you can spin them off and use the machines, and in the meantime, you pay very little to nothing for those machines. Now, if you take me to the next slide, please. One of the other major advantages of Microsoft Azure is that we can provide very high availability, which is very important for law firms, because lawyers don't want to be sitting with like 20 lawyers and not being able to work. That's going to be very expensive at some of their hourly rates. So they want to have a very high availability and uptime. What we can do is we can deploy our software in Azure in different regions, and then for a very fair price, we can actually make sure that region 1, which is active, can be switched over immediately to region 2, which is standby, without any significant major business interruption. Okay, next slide, please. There we go. So with Microsoft Azure and Office 365 and ZyLAB, what is in the cloud stays in the cloud. You can easily connect to all Office 365 resources, spin on and spin off the additional resources, and by using Azure Blobs, we can actually upload data really fast at the speed of your bandwidth into the cloud. We've had clients who actually what they did is they uploaded 500 gigabytes of data overnight, came back the next morning, all the data was processed, and they were ready to review. And that's very important for law firms because you want to keep the time between the identification of the data and the actual start of the review as short as possible. And then, of course, we can also integrate this with on-premises resources. Okay, now if you can take me to the next slide, and then you can slowly continue to the other slide. So we can offer a PST download from Office 365, which we can merge immediately into the ZyLAB One Discovery. Next one. We can do direct collections from the user mailboxes. Next one. We can use Office 365, the E3 or the E5 environment, and then also use it with the in-place eDiscovery solution, and then only collect what is left after the eDiscovery operations in Microsoft. Next one. There we go. We can use the advanced E5 with machine learning, and the next one. 2 more to go. Yeah. We can also do a continuous sync of user mailboxes, so we can archive them into the ZyLAB platform, which could be an interesting option for users that are all the time being questioned. What we can do then, or all the time being used for eDiscovery, the big advantage here is that we can then not only deduplicate data from these mailboxes, but we also do the rest of the processing, and we can even do some preliminary reviewing where we tag emails from these users as being privileged, for instance. So instead of having to tag them in every eDiscovery request on these mailboxes, you only have to do it once. So by integrating the storage and the review, you can save a lot of money on duplicate reviewing efforts, duplicate redaction efforts, on which I will come back later. And also, you don't have to review and process those mailboxes under the pressure of eDiscovery deadlines, but you can do it beforehand when there's no deadlines and no processing and no pressure, and then it's very easy actually to, whenever there's a request, to just collect those data sets and can immediately produce from them. Next one. And then the last one is we can also do this direct collection from document library. So the same if you have some like really high-risk projects in construction, for instance, or in certain medical applications where you know for sure that regulatory agencies or eDiscovery is an ongoing process, then you can do the same there. We call that our ZyLAB preservation vault, which really makes sense if you have a lot of frequent discovery on the same resources. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, and then we can produce to either an Azure environment or an on-premise environment, or we can even combine it depending on how your IT infrastructure is organized. Now, let me give you a little bit more insight on the details in the next couple of slides. So, what we can do with ZyLAB, you take me to the next slide, please. Yeah, is that users can upload information themselves into the eDiscovery platform. So you can upload a zip file or PST file. We do so, that's okay, you can take me to the next one. We support more than 700 different electronic file formats. We can also deal with compound and compressed file formats. We deal with embedded objects. We can automatically OCR non-searchable data. And we can even search audio files. If you take me to the next slide, I got a screenshot of that. What we can do in ZyLAB is, next slide please. Yeah, so what we do in ZyLAB, we can not only search on text data, we can also search on audio data. And what we do is we have this phonetic search technology fully integrated in the eDiscovery platform, which allows you to search on sound recordings and video and sound files without the need to first transcribe this. And we do this for many different languages, and it works really great even if there's like low bandwidth collections and data recordings. What you see a lot is that speech recognition and transcription, so adding text to speech files, typically only works on studio recordings and high quality recordings, but as soon as you have a cell phone with 1,000 hertz, it doesn't work very well. And this technology works very well. It doesn't provide you with a text, but at least it allows you to search. And this is fully integrated in the eDiscovery platform, in the review platform. And you can also use the tagging that you use for responsive privileged for these type of tags as well. Next slide, please. So now for the analysis for early case assessment, it is very important that everything is searchable. And also that data is enriched, because the more of your data is searchable, the more you know. And if there's like components in your archive which you cannot search, or where you have very complex embeddings like an email, and a calendar item with a zip file with a non-OCR TIFF, then you cannot use automatic tools to process or call them. And then all of this data has to be reviewed by the lawyers. So the more data you can actually process, the more aggressive you can do the calling without getting in trouble, the more cost effective your eDiscovery review is going to be. So we do all these different things. We can build email threads. We can also find which emails are missing. So if certain custodians have deleted emails, we will show it in the thread. We do deduplication in a variety of different manners, using a metadata, text, any variation you can imagine. We can also do near deduplication. We can do advanced text mining and data enrichment to allow for semantic organization and extraction. And then we can do auto classification and topic modeling, all of this information. If you take me to the next slide, please. You see an overview of our new HTML5-based eDiscovery review interface. On the left side in the top, you see the email threads. The one in red is actually a message which is missing, which could be some evidence which you may not find because you have not collected all the custodians yet. So this will be an indication that you have to look for more data, or maybe look for certain backup tapes. There's also the whole document family, so all the embeddings. You see the hit highlighting. We can run multiple queries and multiple analysis in parallel. And on the right side, you see the tagging, which can be fully customized. But also, you can tag an entire tree or entire family of email. So if some people are trying to fix a date or fix a time somewhere for a meeting, and there's like 20 emails about that, and it's not relevant, you can tag that entire email chain over all of the custodians with just one click. Next slide, please. The embeddings, what we see, this is especially in fraud and internal investigations, this is the most known method used by individuals to hide information. They store non-searchable PDFs in zip files or TIFFs, or they make screenshots from Snapchat or WhatsApp, which they email those, or what we can do is we can automatically OCR them and make them searchable as well. So if it's somewhere in the system, we will get it out and make it searchable so you can use automatic tools to analyze it. Next slide, please. So all of this can be done with what we call a do-it-yourself self-service SaaS solution, where all of this processing is automated. Everything is done in the background. You don't have to worry. You define your settings once, and you're done. And then on the next slide, please. What we show the reviewer are these nicely colored facets, and you can have like facets for any kind of grouping you wish. So you can use custodians or certain file types, or whether it's reviewed or not. But you can also do these type of facets on information that we discover, like is it a company name, what are the email addresses, are there any indications of price fixing or antitrust behavior. We have a lot of different analytics which we run in the background, which automatically fill these facets, and of course you can define them yourself in your own system. Next slide, please. Each of these facets are clickable, and you can use them in a hierarchical way. You can also get a more traditional overview where you see the different files, and on the left side you actually see that there's a hierarchy there as well, and you can see which documents are reviewed and which are not reviewed. If you go to the next one, once you open a document, next slide please. Yeah, thank you. Then we provide a near-native view of more than these 700 different file formats. So we show it the way you're going to print it. And then we can do both a manual redaction or an auto redaction. And with these redactions, we can also burn in the reason of the redaction. Now, this is very important for FOIA or public records requests. But it can also be important in the light of the upcoming Global Data Protection Regulation, or for organizations that have subsidiaries in Europe and that need to disclose data to regulators in the United States. What we can provide is a tool set which allows you to auto-redact data sets, and not only auto-redact it, but also, for instance, replace names of individuals and companies with certain pseudonyms. And we see huge productivity improvement here, often like in the order of 20 to 50 times more cost effective than using manual labor, and also much more accurate. We can reach levels up to like 99% of accuracy in a couple of different iterations, where human efforts are over and over in research that we do shown to be of lower accuracy. In the next slide, I'll take you to our machine learning. What we can do is we can also take all of the data in our platform and then use machine learning or predictive coding technology as it's used to find similar documents and to organize documents in different categories. Here too, we see a productivity increase of 20 times at least. And this is technology that allows you to organize data sets very quickly, but also allow users to help them to find relevant documents without the need for them to define very complex search queries. Next slide, please. We can start machine learning by using validation sets or random sets. We can also start machine learning by using full text search and then build from there. And the more popular one is where we use our topic modeling, which you see here, which is an automatic clustering algorithm, which clusters data sets, visualizes the topics that are present in those data sets, and then the user can start the machine learning from any of these categories. and then very quickly build a classifier that will help you to reach recall levels of really up to 90%, or in a very, very fast and very efficient time frames when you have a searching problem. And that's very important if you need to answer requests from regulators. You don't want to withhold any information for them. Or we also have clients that use this technology to sort very large data sets into different conceptual categories. For instance, in an M&A application where you want to sort and classify the lease agreements from the mortgages. And you can come up with a variety of compliance applications here as well, where you want to clean up old archives and use this for similar type of applications. Okay, next slide, please. So what do we offer on top of the Microsoft solution? We offer extremely flexible hosting in Azure. Azure truly is the new appliance. It's very cost effective. It's very fast, and it allows you to scale up your resources very, very quickly, making your deadlines. We can integrate directly with 365, so you don't have to run around with hard disks and tapes. We can collect from these archives, and we can keep everything in the cloud. And if you still do have on-premises installations and you do not want to migrate the data sets to Office 365 because they're very dynamic or they're changing constantly, then you can also collect directly from those archives if you want with small on-premise installations. So you can do the first culling and the first pass review on-premises and then only upload what is relevant into the cloud-based system. So that's it for me. Next slide, please. We are more than willing to answer questions.
Thank you, Johannes. And before we get to Q&A, let me just drop the final secret word. That word is data, D-A-T-A, data. We have just a few minutes for a couple of questions. So this first one, I suppose, is addressed to both speakers, but it is. How does the Office 365 environment and ZyLAB eDiscovery address litigation holds on documents?
Yep, so I can start with that. There's two elements to legal hold, and the element that the Office 365 solutions address today has to do with the actual technical. How do we make sure that data that is supposed to be on hold is actually held? So we work with various different legal hold notification solutions, but then when the data actually has to be held, we make sure that that data is preserved no matter what happens. So to the end user doesn't have to even necessarily know that they're on hold, but to the system, any data that has to be on hold, that's placed on hold, will be guaranteed to be immutable, that it will not be destroyed and will not be deleted, even if the user deletes it, even if they empty the recycling bins, no matter what the user does. On the back end, that data is guaranteed to be preserved.
Now, what I can add to that is that we have also a legal hold notification system, which allows one to at least identify the custodians, and then once the mailboxes are archived in Office 365, all data is secure in those environments. If data from a variety of resources or 365 is collected into ZyLAB, it is automatically preserved. So then that is how the legal hold is done on the data. What we can do is we can automatically do recurring collections on a particular mailbox. So we can also automatically collect all the changes and the new documents that are added.
Okay, thanks to both of you. Next question. How do the various Office 365 license options correlate with ZyLAB functionality? For example, what can ZyLAB do with an Office 365 Level 3 license?
me first. Let me address just the question.
That's a good question.
People who don't understand what the licensing levels are. So let me just address the general licensing question, which is that Microsoft Office 365 is licensed based at least in the enterprise, is based on various different licensing bundles. So you have the E1, E3, E5, which are all different licensing levels, which each come with different functionality. E1 basically gives you just email, hosted exchange. E3 gives you the full Office suite, so Word, Excel, Outlook, et cetera, plus unlimited storage of your email, as well as the ability to do holds and to be able to search and export that data. Whereas the E5, when it comes to eDiscovery, adds in the advanced eDiscovery analytics, the ability to OCR data in place, various different tools that are in addition to the standard eDiscovery settings. So based on the different licensing level, we'll also determine when you export the data, what formats are the data in. So from an E3 license, you can export that data out in PST or in its native format if it's Word, Excel, et cetera. But that means that that data then has to go through processing after it's exported. Out of an E5 license, when that data is exported, it actually is exported in a format that's already processed, and that way that data can be loaded directly into ZyLAB without having to do any additional processing. Once it gets there, it's just immediately ready to go in for review.
Yeah, and we can also ingest the PSTs, and then we process them. And yeah, the ZyLAB license is an additional license on top of the Microsoft license. We are not included in any of the Microsoft licenses, but our licensing is very user friendly, so to say.
So I gather that means, with respect to the second part of the question, that you can actually deal with different levels of licensure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also different models, volume-based, perpetual licenses, user-based. We've seen it all. Yeah.
Well, thank you both for those responses, and also for a very, very elucidating program. And I think it is about time to draw to a close. And just a quick reminder about free continuing education credits. Yes, share your insights with us. We're conducting a special research project to improve the knowledge group, better serve you. Give us 10 minutes on the phone, and we'll give you 6 months of free continuing education webcasts. Hard to beat. Please click the link found in the upper right chat box to sign up and participate. We look forward to hearing from you. Now, as a reminder, if you're applying for continuing education credits, the survey that we're sending out is mandatory, as your state bars and boards require that we maintain a completed survey from each attendee. If you requested a recording of today's event or a certificate of attendance, you'll receive the relevant information by email within the next 24 to 48 hours. Please follow us on Twitter. That's @no_group. Receive updates for this event as well as other news and pertinent info. Well, this concludes our event, Office 365 with ZyLAB's eDiscovery. If you have any questions that you think of later intended to one of our speakers, you can send an email to info@theknowledgegroup.org, or you may contact each speaker individually using the information provided in your event materials.